everybody, it's Miss Beck, and today we're going to be doing our knowledge video number 5, Bear, Gull, and Crow. But before we get started, we're going to start with a few Christmas riddles. All right. These always make me laugh. All right. Which elf is the best singer at the North Pole?
The red one, the red and green one.
Elvis Presley. They don't know who that is. He's famous. All right. What do snowmen eat for breakfast?
As a cold snack.
Pretty good guess. Frosted Flakes.
Yes, frosted flakes.
All right.
They eat cold snacks so they don't melt.
So they don't melt. Who
Your friend's saying what those flowers
says, oh, oh, oh?
Merry
Santa Jaws. Oh, oh, oh. Okay.
up on the housetop.
Click, click, click. Down through the chimney with good Saint Nick. All right, so Miss Beck's going to share her screen today.
Yeah.
And
do you want to learn about Christmas flowers?
Well, actually, if you pull a chair up, we're going to learn about Native Americans. Okay, we are on lesson 5, and I've been enjoying it so much because I didn't know a whole lot about Native Americans, and now I do. All right, so we're going to start with some vocabulary words. Get to my correct page here. So they have to be able to see the teacher. You're not the teacher. All right, our first word is bay. Bay.
I was doing that. You're
Okay.
a desk.
Listening ears. This is a picture of a bay. A bay is the area of the sea that is enclosed by a deep curve in the coastline. The Wampanoag often went to the bay to collect clams. The next word is feast. Feast is a big meal. All right, let's move to our next set of words. Rockweed. Can you take a look at that picture and see what you think rockweed is? It does look like weeds, doesn't it? Rockweed is a greenish brown rubbery seaweed that grows on rocks in coastal areas. So it's a type of seaweed. Wading. In this picture, the person is wading. What are they doing? Wading means walking through water that's not very tall at all. Jim and his father went wading in the river to look for crawfish. Now, not waiting, wading. All right, so today we're going to have a little bit of background information, and Miss Beck needs to move herself. So if I don't move myself, I can't see what I'm up here doing, Miss Beck. All right, so I'm going to ask you if you know what type of food is shown in this picture. Anybody have any idea? It may be a type of food that you have eaten. It may be a type of food that you have not eaten. Or maybe you have seen your mom and dad or grandma, grandpa eat it. Anybody got an idea what that is? That is actually a clam. And a clam is a type of shellfish that lives in the ocean. Who on this video has ever tried clams before? Me, I love clams. Clam chowder is a soup that's made from clams, and it's very delicious. All right. So if you've never tried clams, maybe when you go to the beach, you might like to try clams. They're very good when they're fresh. Okay. So today we're going to listen to the story about 3 characters. Now remember, when Miss Beck says characters, those are people or animals in the story. So the 3 characters are named Bull, Bear, and Crow, and they live near the Wampanoag tribe. Let's listen carefully to find out what type of food the Wampanoag like to eat. Do you think one of them's a clam? It might be. All right, let's take a look. All right, So we have some pictures here. Of the clams and of the coast near the bay. I don't know how I can get that. Oh, we have some pictures of a woman walking. I wonder what she's doing. We have a Wampanoag house. So all of these things are going to be part of our story today. Where are we in our story? We are right about there. And so remember, Miss Beck said we live in North Carolina. That's our state. The story we're reading today is set in an area that is where the states of Rhode Island and Massachusetts are located in the northern part of the United States. This place borders the Atlantic Ocean. So right over here is the Atlantic Ocean. And it has many waterways and it has forests as you go in further inland. Okay, this tribe lives in this area. So they live in the watery area, the coastal area, and then also in the forest as well. All right, so let's start with our story. And speaking of Rhode Island and Massachusetts, have any of you been up that way? I've never been to Rhode Island. I used to live in Pennsylvania for a while, but I've never actually been to where Rhode Island is now today. It's up north from where we live. It's a neat place, so I've heard. All right, so let's look at our picture here. What do you see in this picture? Can you tell me the kind of animals you see? Well, long ago, there were 3 animal friends who lived in a land of wild forest, green fields, and shining water. Gull made her home in the grass marshes near the bay. So that's gull, like a seagull. A gull is a type of bird. Bear lived in the deep woods, and crow lived at the edge of the garden. Bear, gull, and crow often got together to visit and chat. One of the things they talked about was the upright walker who lived nearby. What do you think an upright walker is? Well, if you guessed an upright walker is a human, you would be right. An upright walker is a human just like you and me. These beings call themselves the Wampanoags, but the animals call them upright walkers because they talked and walked upright on 2 legs all the time and they never flew. So here's a picture of the upright walkers, and they lived in houses called wetu, built from bent saplings and tree bark. They could make fire just as lightning did when it struck a tree. Excuse me, they grew corn from kernels planted in small earth hills. These kernels were sweet, crunchy nuggets that crow loved to steal. Corn, right? They fished in the bay using nets, spears, hooks, and lines. The upright walkers also hunted in the forest with bows and arrows. So Bear was always very careful to keep his distance. Why do you think Bear was wanting to keep his distance? Well, I bet he didn't want to get shot with a bow and arrow, right? All right, so one day Gull said to Bear and Crow, "Today I saw upright walkers wading in the bay." Let's look at that picture. What did it mean, wading? Wading means walking around in not too high water. Saw. I saw some upright walkers wading in the bay. In this sentence, the word saw means that Gull used his eyes and his sense of vision. There was a man and a boy. They lifted many smooth rocks from the water and carried them into the forest. They said the rocks were for the Appanog. I wonder what an Appanog is. Crow thought for a minute. An Appanog must be an animal, he said. An animal that eats rocks. Can there be an animal bigger than I am? Said Bear. I want to see this animal. Tomorrow I will go and spy on the Appanog. Do you think Crow and Bear are right? Is an Appanog an animal? Let's listen to find out. The next day, Bear found the pile of stones, hid behind the trees, and waited. See him peeking? Before long, the upright walkers came. They dug a very shallow hole in the ground. Shallow means not very deep. They carefully laid the rocks into it and went away. Bear waited and waited, but the Appanog did not come to eat the rocks. Tired of waiting, Bear went to Gull and Crow and told him what had happened. The upright walkers dug a hole and filled it with rocks, but the Appanog did not come. So do you have any other idea what the Appanog could be? It's not a great big animal. I wonder what it could be. Leave it to me, said Crow. Tomorrow I will find out what's going on. So the next day, Crow perched in a tree near the rock pit. Soon the upright walkers returned. They collected lots of dry wood and piled it next to the pit. Crow flew hurriedly to find Bear and Gull. The upright walkers collected wood. They are going to build a wetu for the Appanog, said Crow. The Appanog will live in the forest in its own wooden house. Do you think that's right? Well, he thought for a moment, what if it's not a friendly Appanog? Bear and Gull looked worried. Sometimes when you're worried about something, it's because you don't know what's going to happen, right? The next morning at sunrise, as Gull was winging over the bay, she saw the upright walker man and the boy on the beach. There was a girl with them too. Low tide had uncovered some wet sand that had been underwater at high tide. The upright walkers were looking for little holes in the wet sand. From time to time, water shot up from these holes. They were breathing holes of soft-shelled clams that live under the sand. Gull watched as the upright walkers dug the clams out with the sticks. You see the sticks right there? Soon, the upright walkers had filled a large basket with clams. They waded into the shallow water and filled another basket with even larger clams. Later on, Gull told Bear excitedly, the upright walkers collected many clams. They are so glad to have found so many clams for their Appanog. I hope the Appanog does not eat them up and all the clams and the fish in the bay. I wonder what's going to happen. Gull went on. Gull went on. Next, those upright walkers gathered the rockweed that grows on the shallow water, on the rocks in the shallow water. Rockweed is a type of greenish-brown rubbery seaweed that grows on rocks in coastal areas. The Appanog is going to eat the rockweed too, said Bear. What will it decide to eat next? Bear looked around. Where is Crow? Wasn't he supposed to meet us here? Do you think Appanogs eat crows? No sooner than Bear had spoken than he saw Crow flying toward them. I saw the upright walkers in the cornfield, exclaimed Crow. They put baskets full of corn. They said it was for the Appanog today. The Appanog is coming today. Bear, Crow, and Gull looked at one another. This Appanog must be very hungry. Very, very hungry. I saw the upright walkers in the cornfield. Okay, I already got that, sorry. Well, let's go, said Bear, and lickety-split, off they set off for the rock pit. There they hid among the trees. Before long, some upright walkers started to gather. Then more and more came. There were men, women, and children, big and small, old and young. The upright walkers took the dry wood from its pile and laid it over the stones. One man started the wood burning. Others stayed by the fire and kept it going. They raked the burning wood so the hot ashes fell into the cracks between the rocks. Soon, ashes covered the rocks, heating them up.
Mommy.
Ooh, this is nice.
Mommy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me some cheese?
In just a minute. The upright walkers laid rockweed over the ashes. Steam rising from the damp rockweed gave off a sharp smell of salt. The upright walkers placed heaps of clams and corn on the rockweed, together with lobsters and potatoes. When all the food was loaded on, they covered it with more rockweed. Bear, Crow, and Gull sniffed the mouth-watering aromas of the food cooking. I think I would also say that this probably smelled succulent. Now, everyone fell silent as the old upright walker stepped forward and said a prayer to the Great Spirit. He thanked the Great Spirit for the animals, plants, rocks, and trees. The other upright walkers joined hands in a circle and stood in silence. Then, as a flute and drum sounded, the upright walkers began to dance. Why do you think they're dancing? When the dancing had ended, the old upright walker spoke again. This is a fine day for our appanog. The appanog is a celebration, a time for our people to come together to give thanks for the Great Spirit and to feast on delicious food. Feast means to eat a big meal. Can you guess what the word appanog is yet? Is it an animal? So let the feasting begin. The rockweed covering was lifted off and the upright walkers began to load their bowls with food. Bear, Gull, and Crow looked at one another, and the appanog was not a huge rock-eating animal with big teeth. After all, it was a celebration. And the upright walkers had a clam-bake feast, a mouth-watering, nose-tickling feast. How they wished they could leap out of their hiding place and join in. But what would the upright walkers think of having uninvited guests, especially a bear? Just then, a girl walked toward their hiding place carrying a bowl piled high with food, and we saw her earlier. I thought maybe she had water in her bowl, but she actually has food. It was the girl who had been digging in the sand for clams. The girl laid the bowl back on the ground. Before running back to join the other upright walkers, she called out, "To the birds and animals who share the forest and the bay with us Wampanoags, may you enjoy our appanog, our clam-bake feast." And that is just what Bear, Gull, and Crow did. So, boys and girls, this story tells us about a clam-bake feast. What is the setting of our story? Remember, the setting is where the story takes place. It is by the sea, like by the water. Who are the characters in our story? Let's see. Bear, Gull. Who is that bird? Oh, Crow. And what did they call the humans? The upright walkers. Upright walkers are humans. What does Bear and Crow and Gull think the appanog is when they first hear the word? Do you remember what they thought? They thought it was a beast or an animal. But what is it really? It's a great big feast. In the read aloud you heard, the appanog is a great celebration of food in which people come together to give the Great Spirit thanks and to feast on the food. Say the word feast with me. Feast. When we use the word feast, that means you eat a lot of food. Is that a noun or an action word? When you're doing something, it's the action word. It's called a verb. Steve's family will feast on turkey, rice, potatoes, beans, carrots, bread, and pie. What kind of things do you like to feast on?
Please give me some milk.
Would you please ask your daddy, because Mommy's trying to do her recording. Well, what kind of things do you like to feast on? Let's try to use the word feast when you talk about it. I would like to feast on some delicious shrimp. I love shrimp. We also use the word feast to describe a large meal like in this sentence. We had a large feast to celebrate my birthday. When we use the word feast in this way, we mean it's a thing or a noun. Who has ever heard someone call a really big meal a feast? Like a Thanksgiving feast? What is the word we've been talking about? Feast. So turn to your grown-up and tell them a favorite food that you would like to feast on. Describe the color, taste, and smell in as much detail as possible. Ready? Go. All right, so now I'm going to show you the page that you're going to be working on. And this is in our knowledge pack. This is lesson 5, Bear, Gull, and Crow. And this has a map where we're going to locate the Wampanoag territory. Okay, here, let me unshare a screen. So it has the map, just like we had in Miss Beck's example on the thing. And then we have our word work, feast. When you feast, you eat a lot of food. So then I would like you to draw a picture of a feast. And this can be a feast of any kind that you would enjoy to have. Okay? All right, friends. Well, that's all I have for you today. And I really enjoyed learning about the feast. And it's a really good illustration of how if you come across the word like Wampanoag and you don't actually know what it means, it's hard because you have to think, well, what in the world is it? And you have to pay attention to the clues. So when we read the story, we were able to hear the clues about what the Wampanoag really was. So it wasn't like what they thought. They didn't think it, they thought it was like a great big animal that ate so many different things. So it's really important that when you come to a word that you don't know, that you listen and you try to figure out what it is by listening to the clues, looking to the pictures, and then if you don't know, you can always ask an adult. Boys and girls, thank you for coming. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.